Well, it's a great delight right now to be in the Pete Maravich Assembly Center. An interview I certainly have to do sitting down. It'd be like interviewing a tree. You know? So, Stanley Roberts, great to see you, man.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, Stanley Roberts, man, you played 1 year here, and people know who you are. I mean, you mentioned Stanley Roberts, and everybody knows who Stanley Roberts is. It's gotta make you feel good that your name has held up after all these years like that.
Yes, it does. I mean, the fans here are so great and so loyal. And that's why I'm still here, I guess. Can't go no place else. You can't find fans like this no place else.
And it's like Batman and Robin, too. Every time somebody mentions Shaq, it's Shaq and Stanley Roberts, you know. It's peanut butter and jelly, right?
Yeah, it's the Twin Towers, the duo.
Yeah.
It was fun. You know, Shaq, I guess it was TNT. People have been sending me clips of it, but him and Charles was bantering back and forth, and Shaq was giving him his accomplishments, and Shaq misquoted himself, and I won't point him out to you, Shaq, I'm sorry, but he said he didn't start his freshman year. He did start his freshman year.
Did he?
Yeah, because he started at center and I played the forward position. So we didn't play a lot together because one of us would get in foul trouble. And one of us had to go to the bench and the other one had to take the other one's position. But he did start. So, Shaq, remember that. You started.
Yeah. And it's amazing to look back on, and so much I want to talk to you about. But that year you guys were together, you know, you came in with the reputation of a guy who was more offensively skilled, you were smoother, and Shaq was still kind of growing into his body, a little clumsy, you know, that's what he was early in his career.
Yes, you know, when he came out, he had the dedication, you know, to be the best player he can be. And, you know, when he first started the season, we was using him for block shots and rebounds. But you know, Shaq wanted the ball. He wanted to prove his offensive ability, and you know, and he came into his own and became a way better offensive player than I expected him to be.
You came here 7 feet tall?
Yes.
Did you grow? Are you 7'1"? Well, how tall are you?
7'1".
7'1". I think you are the largest human being I think I've ever interacted with, for sure. And I think Shaq grew to 7'1" or so. That 1989-1990 team is, if we start talking about LSU basketball and the history of LSU basketball, that team is always going to come up. It's a fascinating team, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I mean, we had Maurice Williamson, and Chris Jackson at that time. Now Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf. You know, Wayne Sims, Vernell Singleton, and you know, and the list goes on. We had a really good team. Unfortunately, we didn't go as far as we would love to have went, but it was one of the I would say probably the fourth best team in LSU history, because you cannot count out the 82 and the 84 teams.
The 81 team went to the Final Four, right?
81 82.
Rudy Macklin's time.
Yeah.
And then there was the 86 Final Four team, which was an underdog story.
Yeah.
They didn't have the talent that you guys had, but it was kind of like this blue-collar thing that they had going.
Yeah, and that was John Williams, Oliver Brown, and
Ricky Blanton and Don Redden, the late Don Redden, and those guys. And the 06 Final Four team, which I got a chance to cover. Spectacular group of guys. And I was talking to Kent Lowe a while ago, Stanley, and to put it in perspective of the 89-90 team, there are only 5 jerseys that are retired behind me as I'm looking up here. Bob Pettit, Pete Maravich, Duran, Rudy Macklin, Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, the former Chris Jackson, and Shaquille O'Neal. You played with 2 of the 5 up there.
Yes.
On that team.
Yeah, I mean, it was an experience that I wouldn't change for the world. I mean, we had everything. Unfortunately, we ran against Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
And they had 3 great players.
Lethal Weapon 3, they called it.
Yes, yeah. So and they kind of got hot on us in the second half.
Yeah. I got that in my notes. I want to chat with you about. If you're growing up in the 80s and into the 90s, you have like your heroes, and you remember when you saw Michael Jackson moonwalk for the first time, or Mike Tyson knock a guy out in 90 seconds, or for me, seeing Eddie Van Halen play a guitar solo. How did he do that? Chris Jackson, Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, is just a hero. Like we start talking about, we'll have 5 minutes at work or something. Go to YouTube, pull up Chris Jackson, start watching his highlights and the 53 points against Florida his freshman year. Just give me a sense of what it was like to go to practice and be on the same team as him.
Well, if you don't mind, I'll take it back a little further.
Sure.
We played in high school. We went to the Great Florida Shootout in Kissimmee, Florida. And I remember Craig Carson was the assistant coach, and he mentioned that we were going to be playing against one of the guys they was looking at. And he was like, he's a point guard, he's really good, he's averaging like 50-some points in high school. So I'm like, okay, cool. Because, I'm the man of my school, I'm like, okay, all right. So we went down, and Mahmoud, tell the truth, we actually beat them, and he actually scored, I think it was 48 points against us. And that was the first time I ever got to see him play. And I was like, man, this dude is phenomenal. Because we had, on my team, we had a Charles Jacobs, who was our point guard, but we also had JoJo English, who also played in the NBA with the Chicago Bulls. So, I was really impressed. Well, fast forward a little bit, I was going to the Dapper Dan All-American game in Pittsburgh, and Coach Carson again, I had verbally committed, and he was like, while you up there, talk to Chris, get to know him and feel him out, see if he wanted to come to LSU. And I remember at the end of that weekend, he came to my room, and we sat in there and we talked for a little bit, and he got up and he gave me a hug. He said, you know what? He said, mark my word. He said, I will be an LSU Tiger. He said, I really want to play with you. And I was like, man. And, at that time, we young, and I thought he was it was just something that he was just saying to comfort me.
Conversational, you'll forget this in 5 minutes or something.
Right. And lo and behold, he kept his word, and he came to LSU, and just being on the court with him, it's just phenomenal because he made my job a lot easier.
Yeah, it was and we're sitting right here at half court of the PMAC here. It was, he dribbled past half court between the legs, scissor dribble, pull up from anywhere and hit. And LSU's had some really good guards since then, Marcus Thornton and Cam Thomas is lighting it up in the NBA right now. But no one has really approached what he did 30 years later. No. And if you go back, I would say Pete Maravich was way ahead of his time. Sure.
And if Pete would have had a three-point line, I think him and Pete would have been really, really similar in scoring. But it's nobody that's touched him so far.
Yeah, before our time, right? I mean, I wish I could get in the time portal and go down to the old Cal Palace and watch Pistol Pete play. I read about him, and they said officials couldn't officiate him because they couldn't follow the ball. Where is it, And it was just, he would go on the road. I think he scored 69 points at Alabama, and the Alabama fans were cheering for him. And Alabama won the game, and they were booing at the end because they wanted to see more Pistol Pete. I think the game went to overtime or something. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I wish we could have seen that, but yeah, CJ, Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, Stanley, I heard there were at local bars and stuff, they would do drink specials. Like if Chris Jackson scores 40, if he scores 50,
Yes, he and he made him pay out a lot. So he closed a lot of bars.
Yeah, and the 89-90 team. So there's Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, there's Shaquille O'Neal, there's Stanley Roberts, Maurice Williamson, Vernell Singleton. Used to wear the Snoopy Band-Aid on his arm every game. Right?
Every game.
And then Big Daddy Wayne Sims, that was another rock.
Rock, yes.
And then I even came across Randy Duvall. He was a guy that would flash for you guys.
And Randy was a real good three-point shooter, but he didn't shoot the ball as much as Coach wanted him to shoot, but you had Mahmoud on the floor, so.
A guy who wouldn't shoot enough?
Yeah.
Those guys exist?
Yeah, he was very unselfish.
Shoot more. And then Harold Boudreaux, Big Harold, on that squad as well. Still coaching here in the Baton Rouge area over at Southern Lab. So early on in your career, let's start there. You had trouble getting out of bed in the morning and stuff. I mean, Dale Brown had to come and knock on your door a few times. Or what was it like?
Well, it was different for me, it was tough for me going to class. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was tough, but I wasn't ready for college life. I mean, I started basketball late. You know, I didn't start playing until my sophomore year in high school.
How's that possible?
Yeah, I don't know.
As big as you were, nobody like pulled you and said, "Hey, man."
No.
Just didn't happen.
Just didn't happen, and my ability was natural. It was a natural. It wasn't something that I had to work at. So I kind of fed into my personal life. You know, I was like, okay, I'm smart. I'm a smart dude. I ain't got to go to class. I'm going to handle that. You know, I'm going to take care of that. And so, yeah, I had a lot of breakfast clubs, as we would put it back in the day, where they would come and get me.
The LSU track.
Yes, and the football stadium. And the weight room.
So there you have it, folks. So you think that these guys don't have to go to class, or just that wasn't the case?
No. They keep attendance, and I'm telling you, do not miss class because you will pay for it. I mean, and one story. Coach Brown, Johnny Jones used to handle the breakfast club, and
we're talking 4 or 5 in the morning, right?
Yes, 4:30.
Wow.
And they run you for about 2 hours. You do 30 minutes of weight, but Coach Brown had called Johnny and said, Johnny, stay in his class again, you know, and Johnny got upset. It was like, look, this is not helping him. He's not learning any lessons. So Coach Brown decided he was going to take Breakfast Club that morning. And Coach came and he ran me hard too. And we lift weights. And then he was like, you know what, let's go to breakfast together. So we went and ate breakfast, and Coach Brown walked me into class. And as soon as I went into the classroom, he stood by the door and watched me sit down. And as soon as he walked away, I went out the other door. and I went to the student union. I was so tired.
Yeah.
And Coach Brown said he got the call probably about 10:30 that morning that I had missed class.
Oh boy.
And he said he hopped in his car and he drove all around campus looking for me. And he found me sleeping in the student union. And I missed a lot of classes, but
it was always the weight too, right? It was always they want you to drop 10 pounds or 15 pounds or get in shape. What was it? I mean, you're at a young age. I know everyone can deal with a weight issue, but what was it at that age? Were you just eating poorly? Were you not exercising? I mean, what's the deal?
Well, you know, we didn't find out until later on in my life. I think it was 96 that they finally, it caused me to pass out doing a physical when I was with the Clippers. I actually passed out on the treadmill, and they couldn't find out, they didn't know what was wrong with me and why I was passing out, and found out that I had exercise-induced asthma my whole life. And so that kind of played a role early on in my career because everybody thought I was out of shape. No matter what my weight was, I was out of shape and I was overweight. Even when I was at my lowest at 300, you know, and this is the NBA, I was out of shape because the first few minutes of a basketball game was the hardest for me because my lungs hadn't adapted to running. And so, it took a mental toll on me. Yeah. And it actually got me depressed. I started getting depressed. And then after a while, I just said, you know what? I don't care no more. And that kind of led me in the wrong path later on in life. But, you know, hearing that every day is like, and you know you're out there working hard. Your weight is not high. I mean, and when I was here at LSU, and Coach Brown had put me on a special diet. I could eat certain foods. I couldn't, you know, I had a third extra workout put in. And Wayne Sims always fuss at me about that every time we talk about that, because Coach Brown didn't want me to work out alone, so he made Wayne work out with me. Dark Broussard. With Dark Broussard.
Wayne was put together back then.
Yes. I mean, well, and Wayne and Ricky, and give them praise, because they were the two hardest working guys.
You never played with Ricky Blanton, but you were when you got to sit out a year because you were Prop 48.
Right. Yeah.
So you were practicing with the team and.
Well, couldn't practice, but you work out with them, and I got to see Ricky and Wayne work out, and I was impressed. I'm like, man, they worked out hard, and Mahmoud worked out hard also. He was a hard workout, but yeah, I never seen nobody run and lift weights like Wayne and Ricky did.
Yeah, I remember Stanley being at that age, and I'm looking anorexic, and people, you need to lift weights. I'm like, I'm a basketball player. I don't need to lift weights. And I remember when my uncle said, take a look at Ricky Blanton. Take a look at Wayne Sims. Look at those guys.
Yes. They I mean, they really stuck to the regimen, and I mean, I wasn't a big weight room person. I couldn't stand the weight room. Couldn't. But yeah, I mean, I got used to it, and Ricky and Wayne pushed me and helped me along, the whole time. Even when Ricky was done here, he still came around and played and gave me words of encouragement and took care of me, and so I learned a lot from Ricky and Wayne.
Yeah, you didn't play on that team, but the year before you got here, a lot of great times watching Chris Jackson and Ricky Blanton team up. There's a game in the Superdome where Ricky gets the putback against Georgetown.
Yes.
In front of, I think it was 54,000 in the building, 66,000 tickets sold. Superdome.
Yes.
Number 2 Georgetown.
Yeah, I was sitting on the bench for that one. Me, Harold, and Maurice.
Oh, so you're sitting there watching it?
Yeah. We was props that year.
Gotcha.
And then I think we played Notre Dame.
Yeah, Notre Dame later in your your next the 89-90 team.
Yeah.
And then Ricky against UNLV. I don't know if it was down here or down there. 3-pointer at the very end.
Down there.
There you go. And the great Brett Musburger with the call. LSU wins it. LSU wins it. Chris Jackson freshman year. My goodness. And then moving on. So February the 3rd, 1990.
Yeah.
Right here on this court. LSU 148. Loyola Marymount 141 in overtime.
Yeah. That's a game you never forget. Especially with the style of play that Loyola was running with Paul Westphal. All I can say about that game was it was an early game on CBS, and I remember after the game walking back to the dorm, and the sun was still out, and the whole team went to bed. It was done. It was we were so burnt after that game. I mean, even in the locker room, when the buzzer finally rung and everybody ran in the locker room, everybody was laying on the floor. Nobody sat in their chair. But Coach Brown got me and Shaquille ready for that one. He kept messing with us in practice that whole week. Paul Westphal over there said he's going to run these two big guys at LSU into the ground, and they're going to win by X amount of points. And I just kept telling myself, no, I don't think that's going to happen. But what people didn't realize was we love to run. We love to run. We had problems that year with teams that slowed down, like a Mississippi State, that would run the clock, that would be patient. We couldn't play that style.
Will Wade calls those tractor pull games.
That's a good term. But we love to run, and people didn't realize that. So I think we also played Texas that year, who tried to run against us, and we beat them, and UNLV, we beat them. Any running game, we won. Cause it was just fun. I mean, Mahmoud, you had Mahmoud and Maurice Williamson, two of the quickest guards that love to get out and push the ball.
So some quick things from that game. The halftime score was 72-58. LSU out in front. The second half, Loyola Marymount flipped it on you, 76-62. So they outscored you by 14, obviously, to push the game into overtime. And then in overtime, LSU outscored Loyola Marymount 14-7. And one Stanley Roberts, by the way, in that game, 10 for 10 from the floor. You did not miss.
Yeah.
I think you were 1 for 3 on your free throw.
Yeah, I wasn't that great.
These big guys in these free throws.
Yes.
But 10 for 10, 21 points, 12 rebounds for you that day.
Yeah. And like I say, that comes back to running, you know. And let's be honest, I bird dog a few of those. I didn't get back in time on the other end because
hey guys, I'm over here. Y'all go do that, and I'm over here.
Well, Loyola at that time, if I remember correctly, was averaging a shot every 3.2 seconds.
Yeah.
So it was like out of bounds. They take it and they throw it at half court, and then they're going in for a layup.
Hand grenade, get it out of your hands. Just chunk it.
So it was one of those games where. Whew.
How about this line for Shaquille O'Neal? 9 out of 12, 20 points, 24 rebounds, and 12 block shots. Now that is a triple-double.
Yes. And I don't know how he made it through it, because I barely made it through it. But that is one game that we did play opposite of each other, because Coach kept subbing us, keeping one of us on the court at all times. Then it made it a lot easier, because they shot the ball so fast that their team didn't get back to get the rebounds.
Yeah.
So that made it a lot easier for us to get rebounds. But
CJ Chris Jackson, another night at the office, 34 points, 9 assists. Wayne Sims, 19 points, 4 rebounds. Vernell Singleton, 22 points and 8 rebounds. Loyola Marymount in that game shot the ball 116 times.
Unbelievable.
They made 52 of them. Yeah. They jacked up 45 three-pointers, made 16 of those. You guys only shot the ball 95 times.
Yeah.
Made 61, and only tried 14 three-pointers, made 4 of 14 from three-point range. 14,084 here in the Deaf Dome to see that one that day.
Yes, and when we talk to fans, like me and Wayne, we hang out a lot. Wayne Sims, we're really good friends, and and we tell people all the time. Back then, people used to camp out on the ramp to get into the PMAC. I mean, it was unbelievable. Like I said, the fans just was unbelievable at that time.
Yeah. After you left, when Duke came here with Christian Laettner, that was the one where I think, they started camping out like a day or two before. Famous story real quick at Channel 9 History, Stanley. So we were doing Steve Schneider and Channel 9 was doing a promotion. They did a live shot, and they said, anybody who can spell Krzyzewski right wins free pizza. Coach K, Duke. And so they go down the line, and everyone's butchering it, and finally they get to some kid, and, K-R-Y, blah, blah, blah. That's right, you got it. You win the free pizza. So he gets free pizza. So they play the game here. Hard-fought game. Shaq really goes at Christian Laettner and has a great game, but Duke wins. After the game, in the press conference, Coach K's walking out. He sees Steve Schneider. He goes, oh, by the way, that kid on TV last night didn't spell my name right. So you never know who's watching. Coach K was watching Channel 9.
Well, Coach K is one of the best coaches around, so I'm assuming he was watching just to make sure, see what was going on in Louisiana.
Just part of his scouting report.
Yes.
Watch the local news. But yeah, just and by the way, it's that Loyola Marymount game has been voted. The fans voted online, I think at LSUsports.net. They were voting for the most famous game in the history of this building. And it eked out the Memphis game from the NCAA tournament in 1986.
Oh. So
that was played here.
Thank you, fans.
Yeah, because I remember that was the big thing. Dale Brown was challenging you. Can you get up and down the floor, Stanley? I don't know if you can. That kind of message, right?
Yeah. And if anybody knows me, I always do the opposite. Yeah, I mean, you tell me I can't do something, I'm going to do the opposite of what you say I can't. So Coach had me pretty pegged on that one.
The NCAA tournament, you beat Villanova the first round, and then Georgia Tech beat you 94-91 up in Knoxville, Tennessee. You led the game 24-5 early. I remember watching that game at Matt Fleming's house and thinking, oh man, they're coasting. This team is gonna, go to the Final Four, and then it got away from you there. It's great to find excuses, Stanley. 32 years later, I didn't remember that Mahmoud Chris Jackson had a severe chest cold.
Yes.
He only scored 13 points and was 5 of 15 from the field.
Yeah.
Word had leaked out before the game that he was going pro.
It had. But, you know, that didn't affect him. I mean, the cold is what got him. The medication, you know, he wasn't 100%.
And he had Tourette's too.
Yes.
So he's on medication for that as well. So.
Yeah, and he just had he worked. He tried to play through it, but you know.
Yeah. Dennis Scott, Kenny Anderson on Georgia Tech's team. Scott had 30 points. Anderson had 26. Scott was 10 of 32 shooting, so it took him a little ways to get to that. Took an avenue to get to those 30 points. Stanley Roberts, Shaquille O'Neal combined for 40 points and 10 block shots in that game.
Yeah, like you said, we was up, I think, at halftime by 22 points, but second half, Dennis came out and hit 3 threes. Kenny hit 3 threes, and Brian Oliver, I think, hit 2, like back to back, and that lead was cut down, and we just couldn't trade 2s for 3s that game.
You were 10 of 17, Stanley Roberts, 21 points in that game, so you held your own. So looking back on the 89-90 team, some people may argue it was the greatest collection of talent in LSU history, with Chris Jackson, now Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, Stanley Roberts, Shaquille O'Neal, and all the other guys I talked about. And made it to the second round. How do you look back on that team? It was certainly when you beat Loyola Marymount here and you beat UNLV, we saw that was the potential, that was Final Four potential, but it didn't pan out that way.
Yeah, you know, before that game against Georgia Tech, Coach Brown walked in the locker room, and if you remember, we was going back to the Superdome, which LSU has never lost in the Superdome. The tournament was going to go back home. So all we had to do was to beat Georgia Tech, and we probably won the national championship that year because, you know, with the fans and being at home. But like I said, the team itself was a great team. I mean, we had some great personalities. Everybody played their role. Sometimes we didn't have enough basketballs on the court, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, Coach Brown did a good job of corralling us and getting us to play. But unfortunately, we just fell short with that Georgia Tech game.
Yeah. I remember the next year they put out those posters before the year, like with the schedule on it. And I think the next year was getting back to business or something like that. And if I remember correctly, there was a bunch of guys with shovels and hard hats that they were like out digging ditches and working. Like,
yeah.
We were too glamorous the year before. We were too flashy. We had too many superstars, or, you know.
But I mean, Garrick Homick was on the.
Kirk Hamrick?
Garrick.
The trademark goofy white guy, right?
Yeah.
The big.
But he played well.
Became a first-round draft
pick, yeah, and went to Orlando with Shaquille. So I mean, they had a good team that following year. Unfortunately, I wasn't part of it.
What happened after that year with you? Did you went? I know you went to Spain.
Yeah.
But did you flunk out, or what? Why did you leave?
My GPA fell below the 2.0, and I remember talking with Coach Brown that morning, and he gave me the option. He was like, "Well, you can sit out the first half of the season, and let's see what happens in the spring." And I was just like, you know what, Coach? Yeah, I don't think I want to do that. And only because, like, you know, just the terminology, let's see what happens. You know, at that time, Shaquille was now becoming the face of the team, and I didn't want to take a back seat, as you would say.
Ego.
Yeah. So I decided to go ahead and leave school. I was blessed that like 4 days later, Madrid, Spain, came and knocked on my door, and so I went with that option and went overseas because the NBA draft had already passed by, and so. Yeah.
Looking back on it now, 32 years later, would you have done anything differently? Do you think you would have come back for another year at LSU, or that was your path?
Well, I believe that was my path. You know, because I wasn't planning on leaving until I got that last grade. I was planning on coming back.
Somebody made the decision for you.
Right, and so I wouldn't change nothing that I've been through. I had a lot of ups and downs in my life and a lot of hard times, but it made me the man I am today, and so.
There's a book I recommend if you're an LSU fan. It's called Walking with Tigers. Jeffrey Marks, a fantastic writer, a Pulitzer Prize.
Hey, Jeff.
Yeah, this guy certainly would endorse Jeff. Wrote, it's a collection of LSU stories. There's even one on Red Rock and Blue in here, our charity organization that Jeff did a great job with. But perhaps the most fascinating chapter in it is called The Graduate, and it's about you. Coming back to graduate at LSU at 42 years old. But before that, and if anybody, I have some of these books. If you ever want to contact me and make a donation to our charity, I'll be happy to get you one of these books. You know where to find me. But your life and your career after LSU is pretty fascinating. You get drafted after you go to Madrid, right?
Right.
You're a first-round draft pick by Orlando. And then when do the problems truly creep in for you?
I want to say they actually creeped in Spain.
You were partying.
Yeah. It was just a series of events. When I left here to go to Spain, I ended up getting my carbon monoxide poisoning from a vehicle I was driving. So when I got there, I was really sick, and I was in the hospital, and then they put me in a hotel for a month. I gained a lot of weight because of the steroids they was on. So then they started blasting me in the media there about my weight and why they brought me to Spain. And then, but quickly that turned around, and I got myself back in shape and became the Beast of Madrid. Yeah, that was my nickname. Yes, I still get a lot of Spanish people emailing me every day. Appreciate y'all. But and then when I came to Orlando, they said I was about 15 pounds overweight, and Matty Guokas and Oregon Pat Williams, they wasn't happy about that. So I set out the first part of the season. I think I got to play in Minnesota against the Timberwolves 2 games before All-Star break that weekend.
Did you ever play in a game with Shaq in Orlando? I should have looked that up.
No,
Didn't happen.
I actually got traded for Shaq. But played the 2 games before All-Star break, and I remember I scored.
That's
20.
Right. That was a stupid question on my part. He played another 2 years after you left.
Yeah. So I ended up doing well. Ended up being second team all rookie team, voted MVP of the Orlando Magic squad, and then they drafted Shaq first round, and he came in, and they just at first they decided they wanted to try the Twin Towers again, but towards the end they decided not to. So I ended up getting traded to which was one of the second.
You played 8 years in the NBA.
Yeah.
4 with the Clippers, 1 with Minnesota, 1 with Orlando, 1 with Houston, 1 with Philadelphia. That's what it shows. And reading this article by Jeff, how much money do you think you earned in the NBA during your time? It's in the millions. It's in the tens of millions. It's 20, maybe 30.
Yeah. The NBA, Oscar Schoenfeld, who was my agent, and a good friend of mine, he just did a book also, and he did the research. According to the NBA records, I made, I say $16.7 million.
$16.7 million.
Yeah, but the contracts was, of course, a lot bigger. $30 million with incentives and everything. But but hey, it was millions.
It was millions of dollars.
Yes.
When do the drugs come into play? And are you a user, or are you just giving to others?
I was a user.
Cocaine?
Cocaine. And I started using because, like I said, I stopped caring, because no matter how hard I tried, in my mind, no matter how hard I tried to get in shape or do right, it just wasn't working out for me. So I became a recluse and started using drugs to help manage my mental anguish and the injuries. to be honest with you. I had several injuries, and just 1 year with the Clippers, I had bone spurs in the back of my, right behind my Achilles, and they was giving me pain pills before the game, at halftime, and at the end of the game. And it became a daily regimen of pain pills every day just to get through practice.
Looking back on that, is that irresponsible or on their part, or was it just that's the way it was then?
It was irresponsible on their part.
Yeah.
But I should have had enough sense to say no.
Tap the brakes. Hey guys, this is too many drugs.
Right, and but yeah, that's the way it was back then. If you didn't play, they threatened you of being traded, or voiding your contract. So you had the choice. You either going to work through it and play through it and get through it, or they trade you.
Show up for work, or we're going to fire you.
Right.
Basically. So how does that work? I mean, you got a 7 o'clock game, doing a little cocaine during the day, and you get on the court before a game?
No, I only used during the summertime most of the time. I would never use during the season because I just couldn't function. With practice and the travel and the schedule. So it was more so in the summer, and then it kind of bled towards the end of my career. 3 days off from practice, I might go use one day, but it's like Minnesota with the Timberwolves. After I had back surgery and came back, I came down on a king's foot and twisted my back and went to the doctor, and the doctor basically told me, you're done for the season, But the Timberwolves, we was going to the playoffs. We was playing Seattle the first round, and they basically sent me to a hospital to do an epidural. They did the epidural, and they did too much, and my whole body from my waist down was totally numb. So then I went to the hospital under a fake name for 3 days, and this is all team. This is the team handling all of under a fake name, and was in traction, trying to get the feeling back. Feeling never came back, and they were still trying to force me to play. And so I did what I usually do, is use drugs as a crutch.
What is the effect of cocaine? It gives you a good feeling for 15 minutes or so, and then there's a crash, or what is the psychological feeling?
It is euphoric. It doesn't last long, like you said, 15 minutes, and that's why it's a continued use. But it took me from not being me. It gave me the ability just not caring, just not even worrying about them, not even stressed about, going to the game or practicing when I know I can't go, because no matter how they looked at it or how they talked about me, I was dedicated. It's just that when I was hurt, they wanted me to keep going, and I knew I couldn't keep going. I knew my body couldn't keep going.
When you were on, and if you got 5-10 minutes, folks, you go to YouTube and search Stanley Roberts. And there are games where you're going head to head with Hakeem Olajuwon and putting up 22 points and 10 rebounds. And for a big man, you had movement, quicks. You could spin. You were explosive. You even had a little dribble, here and there, to the hoop. And so when you were on, you were up amongst the best. So looking back on it, I mean, could you have? I don't want to say what could have been, but how much what could have been is there with you because of these other things?
I'd have been in the top 50 players to ever play the game. I always remember this, and thank you, Mike, for telling me this. When I was a rookie in Orlando, we played in Chicago. We were playing the Bulls. And I think
being Michael Jordan?
Yes, I'm sorry, MJ. We was in Chicago playing, and this is their first national championship, first NBA title that year. And we was down by, I think, 20-something points going into the fourth, and Phil Jackson pulled Mike and Scotty and Horace out of the game, which gave me a little more breathing room. And I also had Brian Williams at that time on my team, which changed his name to Bison Deha, the one that got killed. His brother killed him, and that big thing. He went to the Bulls, played for Detroit, played in Denver with Mahmoud. But anyway, to make it short, after the game, we ended up coming back and actually beating them. And Phil just didn't put Mike and Scotty and Horace back in time enough. Me and Brian had got going, and I had met Mike and hung out with him prior to this game, and he came over, him and Scotty, and to congratulate me and gave me a hug. And he was like, "If you play like this every night," he said, "the sky's the limit. But you just gotta want to play like this every night." And that always stuck with me. But I said my second year with the Clippers, after that first torn Achilles tendon, I just couldn't get it going again. I mean, it was injury after injury. I tore the Achilles tendon, came back in the first preseason game that following year and tore my other Achilles tendon. Then had the bone spur problems, then ruptured disc in my back. And then from there, it was rotator cuff in Houston. So
when you're a big man,
yeah,
your joints and you're just putting a lot of pressure on those things, huh? I mean, it's hard to stay healthy.
Healthy, yeah. Especially once you start, it's always your first injury, and then it kind of cascades into injuries after injuries. Because, like I said, you want to play, you want to be out there with your teammates, and you kind of rush everything. And I respect the players today that will actually stop and say, "I'm not playing tonight because of my injury." No matter what the fans say, no matter what the organization say, I'm not going to go out there right now because I'm not 100%. Because when you're not 100%, I've learned you put more stress on the rest of your body. And
I also read that, so you got a mansion, like in Los Angeles, right? And you're so nice that you got people like hanging out, the hangers on, so to speak, looking to live off the Stanley Roberts gravy train. And you're too nice to tell them, "Hey, get the hell out of my house." And they just start hanging out at your house, and you're so nice that you actually leave that house and get another one while they live in this mansion.
I got a condo. Well, now, but
the hangers all live in the mansion, and you live in the condo.
Condo, yeah. I was. People don't know this about me, but I was raised a Christian, and when I got to the NBA, I kind of fell out of that path, and so I always had a hole. I always felt empty. I don't care how many people were around me. I don't care who I was talking to. It was always an empty feeling.
A void.
Yeah, and I thought I could feel that void by having people around me, but the void, I couldn't feel it. So I ended up just, going off by myself. And y'all keep that. I'm gonna go over here and be by myself and do what I gotta do mentally to try to get back to where I need to be.
Wow. So if somebody would, I'm assuming this place had a pool.
Well, the one in LA didn't. The one in Florida did.
Okay. But so I'm just thinking, somebody falls and gets hurt, or they could sue you, right? It's your house, and you're not there, and it's just one of the things that pops into my mind there. But wow. So in Los Angeles too, that's got to be a bad place to live, when you've got these kind of things in your head, right? I mean, you can get in trouble anywhere.
Right.
So I talked to Cecil Collins. You can get in trouble in Leesville. You get in trouble anywhere. But I mean, in LA, I'm sure the temptation was just unbelievable.
Yes, it was. It was, and like I said, and the thing is, Coach Brown always asked me, how much money did you spend on drugs? Well, like I tell Coach, when you have hanger-ons and they're living in your house, drugs are free. They're gonna give them to you. Everywhere you go, everything is free. And so I made it a point. If I went to a club, I paid. If if I went to a dinner and they tried to comp me a dinner, I still paid, because that's how it was. And my mother raised me to treat everybody fairly and to have a big heart and to love everyone. So, and that's, unfortunately, that kind of hurt me in the long run.
I watched an interview, and then, of course, I'm going to make this reference. You remember the band Poison?
Yes.
The hair band. Bret Michaels is the lead singer, and he said exactly what you just said. He goes, I want to kill one of the biggest fallacies out there, is that guys blow all their money on drugs. Drugs are free. Yeah. Wherever you go, they're, hey, had this. So maybe it's the decisions you make when you're on drugs.
On drugs, yeah.
that become a problem. And the law tapped you a few times, right?
Yes.
You got arrested and there was some problems.
Yes. I don't think I met a jail that I didn't like, but
or that you did like.
But I got caught up a couple of times. And the funny part is, and this is like my big the longest time was in Texas and Houston, and it wasn't even for me, it was for somebody else.
So what happened? You're in a crowd of people or something?
No, it was in the vehicle.
I see.
Yeah, it was in the vehicle, and I was actually straightening out my life at that time, and it was in the car. I was taking it to somebody, and cops just happened.
What is it? It turns blue, right?
Yeah.
Drop something on to prove it's real or not. And so, I mean, getting back to the whole you're tied with Shaq thing. I don't want to say could you be Shaq and have a statue of yourself outside the PMAC and your number retired here and all that, but if you stay on the straight and narrow, do you have a comparable career, or you a third or a half of his career, or what do you think? You just said you thought you'd be in the top 50 of all time.
Yeah.
So I would assume you think you could be in that galaxy.
Oh yeah. Oh definitely. If I would have stayed straight on the straight path and wouldn't have all the injuries that I had, I'd have been in the top 10. Yeah. I mean, just knowing me and knowing my ability and what I could do, I would have been in the top 10.
Yeah, I was looking at the YouTube comments today, and I think it was the top comment. When he was right, he was an all-timer, and so those are the kind of things that. But you're so upbeat, happy, smiley. You don't have any darkness to you. At least when I've interacted with you, And so you just kind of, I had 20 million. I don't have it now, but you know what? I learned my lessons, and it seems like you have embraced this as well as somebody can embrace it.
Yeah, I think so. And to be honest with you, I'm kind of glad. I mean, I see Shaq and all these players, and I remember when I had money, all the stuff that came with it. I'm happy, just being me.
Yeah, and I appreciate your candor and being so open about all this. I mean, and I glanced in there. You had 4 children pretty quickly, right?
Yeah, well, the first one, I had a little gap in the first one, but yeah, then I had, yeah, and yes, they are by 4 different mothers, and I love all my children.
Yeah,
and I treat them all the same, and but yeah, I was doing my addiction. Well, my daughter is from my college sweetheart, and she actually was with me in Spain, and she was smart. I got to give it to her, because she saw the lifestyle and she was like, no, I'm simple. I love God. I don't want to be a part of that, and so we parted ways, and we're still great friends to this day. I mean, really, and and then there's my son in L.A. That was doing the addiction. Then there's my daughter, Isabella, and that was during my addiction. And then my son Khalid, and he was at the end of my addiction, but when I started trying to change my life. But yeah, I love all of them.
Well, great. So I think our 2004 was kind of like your last chance. You tried out for the Raptors, maybe, Toronto.
Yeah.
And didn't make the team. Yeah. So in 2012, you earn your degree at Louisiana State University. You graduate.
Yes, great honor, and that was funny because Coach Brown had been riding me ever since I left school to come back and get my degree, and he just happened to call me. I was actually injured. I was working on a construction job and I injured my elbow, and I was just laying around, and coach just happened to call to check on me, and he brought up school, and I was like, yeah. I said, you know what? Maybe I might just go back to school, and that kind of blossomed.
Yeah. Well, that's a tremendous story that you tell. That if there's any person out there that says Dale Brown doesn't care if these guys graduate or not, or it's just part of a PR pitch, or the way he wants to be seen by fans or whatnot. The fact that years after the fact that you are no longer any service to Louisiana State University or Dale Brown or this basketball team winning games, that he cared, Stanley, go back to school, get your degree.
Yes, yeah, and he's still trying to get Wayne Sims and Mahmoud. he's still trying to get him to come back to this day. He's tried to recruit me to talk to him also, but they're not having it right now.
Yeah. So you go back. What's that like when you're out of? Let's see. So we're talking. When are you back in class? 2008.
08. I came back in 08. Yep.
So you got here in the late 80s. So we're talking 20 years after you've been in a classroom or something like that.
Yes. And it was different. It was different.
I can't imagine going back to school now. There's no way. I'd fail probably.
Well, the first thing was just getting used to the computers and everything, because when I came in the late 80s, there wasn't no computers. We were still using typewriters. So they was like, oh, you got to register online, and you got to create a username, and you got to do this. And I'm like, ma'am, this wasn't part of my my program.
Yeah,
but
Scantrons and all that stuff. Well, great. And so you graduated, and so what are you doing now?
I work for a company called Aptum. I'm a craft recruiter. I recruit for the sites and new construction and plants, industrial plants.
Good deal. And that's good, right? That you take pride in going to work every day and still doing something. It's not in the back of your head, well, if I would have saved my money, I wouldn't have to work right now.
Yeah, it's funny because people are always like, man, you blew all that money. I'm like, look, walk a mile in my shoes and then come back and tell me. People always, it makes it, to me, it's like, you never had this money, so you don't know what you're going to do. But you're going to tell me, oh, if I had this money, I'd be doing this and this. No, until you make it, then come and talk to me. But until then, you don't know what's going to happen. And whoever thought like Kareem would have lost all his money and went bankrupt? And he came back. Whoever, stuff happens.
It does. It happens to people who are on the straight and narrow too, like TLC, right? They sell like 7 million albums and they're broke.
Right.
They sign bad deals, or the record company takes all their money, or those kind of things happen.
Yeah, it happens. It's part of life. And like I tell people, God don't promise you, happiness. You don't. You're gonna have trials and tribulations all life. And I'm just glad I was blessed to do what I did, to have fun, and still be here. Because a lot of people are not here today.
You're from South Carolina.
Yes. And
you came, after your NBA career, you decided to come back here.
Yes.
So you love LSU.
Love LSU. Now, I did make a couple of stops. I was in Houston for a while. And thank you, Texas. Y'all put me in jail. I appreciate that, because you actually saved my life. But
how long were you in jail in Houston?
I wasn't in there that long.
Okay.
It was like 32 days.
This big guy's too likable. Let him go.
Well, when I first went into court, I remember the judge named Carol Davis. Davis was her name, and I remember walking up to her, and this guy, and the funny thing, the case she heard right before me, this guy was actually a criminal. He actually got caught. He was from Louisiana. Actually got caught with X amount of drugs. Shipment, and she let him off on probation and sent him back to Louisiana. So when I walked up there, she was like, "Oh, Mr. Roberts," she said, y'all entertainers and athletes, y'all seem like y'all think y'all running this world right now." And I'm just like, my head just dropped. I'm like, man, here we go. She about to get me. But she saved my life. And I got put in a program called the Star Court program. It was a pilot program in Texas at that time. And I was the first how'd you say, entertainer, superstar, to ever be put in the program, and I was pretty much to see if the program was going to work.
Yeah.
And hey, Mary.
That's got to make you feel good, right? That you led that thing off. And
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but I owe them more than what they owe me, because I mean, they really saved my life. I mean, they got me thinking right, got me focused on what I needed to do.
When did you stop using? When's the last time?
Man, that was 2000. 2002.
Okay.
2002.
So you've been clean for 20 years.
Yeah. And like I said, they put me in that program, and that's the Star Court program. And that program was, I gave them trouble, though, in the program. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy.
It was back to the Breakfast Club with Johnny Jones.
It wasn't easy. But, yeah, they really helped me out. And Lawrence Robinson, thank you. Pathway Recovery, Texas City, Texas. Thank y'all. But yeah.
And it's got to be. And you see younger people now, and you have to have fear about them getting involved in that stuff, because there's even so much more pressure on. I think now with social media and trying to compete and be the prettiest girl or the most popular boy or whatever. Can I get the most likes on Instagram or TikTok or whatever it is?
Yeah. Yeah, technology.
The good and the bad.
The good and the bad, and it is scary. And I worry about my kids, even though they're young adults now. I still, talk to my kids about, what they post on there, who they talk to, And now that certain states have legalized marijuana, that is another concern of mine, because I worry about my kids. Because no matter what, it is one of the gateway drugs. Yeah.
Did you smoke?
Yeah, I smoked. Yeah, I started off drinking, which I couldn't stand the taste of alcohol. I started out and then I went to smoking, and if people don't realize, until 1999, the NBA didn't test for marijuana. That the 99 drug policy, collective bargaining agreement, is when they actually added marijuana into it. So previous to that, there was a lot of NBA players smoking. Excuse me. And,
he's got a big foot, okay?
Yeah. And then from
it's
there,
a controversial subject.
It is.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but what's worse for me, a bottle of Jack Daniels or marijuana?
Well, you asked me, I'm gonna tell you that Jack Daniels.
Yeah.
Because it's the only drug that put the entire brain to sleep. The only drug. Every other drug targets a certain area of your brain, but alcohol is the only drug that will affect the whole entire brain.
And it can make you aggressive, angry. The hard liquor can charge that up, I think.
Yeah, and so to me, it's marijuana. You can smoke and drive. You can smoke and drive with marijuana.
Be driving slow.
Yeah. But most of the time you don't get off the couch. You just want to eat. You just want to eat. You just want to.
That was always the thing I saw from people who did that. Is that they were lazy.
Yeah.
So they didn't do anything all day, and they just laid around and they talked about big ideas and I'm gonna do this, man. I'm gonna do that. But they don't ever do it.
Do it. Never leave the couch.
Yeah. Cheetos and 2 liter of Coke.
Little Debbie's.
That's right. Well, look, I really enjoyed visiting with you. I think people will really enjoy hearing from you. And like I said, you played over 30 years ago. You played 1 season here, and everybody knows Stanley Roberts. He's always been a fan favorite, and the superstar days. Stanley, Shaq, Chris. Those were the days.
Those were the days.
You remember being? What do you remember about this place?
I remember we used to have that meter.
The noise stick.
I used to be in the timeouts, and Coach Brown would be talking. I'd be trying to look at the meter. How loud is it going to get? How loud is it going to go? But I got a lot of fond memories in this place, to be honest. From the cleaning staff to the fans. To the media, team doctors.
What was the loudest it ever was in here? Do you remember running up into this court after a dunk or a block shot? I'm like, oh my God, I can't hear myself think.
Got to be at the end of the Loyola game. But I mean, the meter hit a few times during that season. But
Yeah.
that had to have been that was the loudest.
This court we're sitting on now is now named Dale Brown Court. Just your thoughts on that?
Long overdue. I think they should have a statue out there of him and Rudy and everybody that's.
You're gonna get Rudy a statue too?
Yeah, I'm gonna get Rudy. But yeah.
What a great guy, Rudy Macklin, too, by the way.
Yeah, I believe that everybody up there should have their own statue, even on the women's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you got Simone Augustus and Sylvia Fowles, which if you've been to a press conference like I have recently, the great Kim Mulkey has been beating that drum about getting those two ladies statues next to Shaquille O'Neal and Bob Pettit outside.
Yes. And if you run out of room, just start bringing them inside. Put them in the corridors. If you run out of room, if you get that many players in the future that you can retire jerseys, bring them inside. But yeah.
Well, what should we do for Stanley Roberts? How should we remember Stanley Roberts here?
We good.
You're still here.
Yeah, I'm still here. So I'm good, y'all.
He stands out in the crowd too, by the way.
Yes, and I try to hide, believe that or not.
He towers over me when we sit. Can you imagine, when you stand up? And I see you still involved in like basketball camps and helping kids and stuff, and that's great.
Yes, thank you. I actually try to help coach over at Ascension Christian in Perryville, Gonzales area.
Yeah.
And I got 2 games tonight, JV and varsity. Hopefully we play in White Castle.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Some talented people.
Yeah.
Tell me about Kent Lowe. Tell me about Dr. Kent Lowe.
Dr. Kent Lowe, boy, Kent has been here before I got here. I wish he was here, but
he'll be here later. Will Wade's got a 12:30 press conference. There you go. Hello, Stanley.
Yes. I used to mess with Ken. I told Ken I was going to take his job when he retired, but I don't think Ken is ever going to retire. I don't think he ever going to get that job.
We hope he doesn't.
Yes.
There's certain people that are perfect for the job, and you can't imagine anyone else doing that job. Kent Lowe is certainly the guy that you think of. It was funny the other day, Stanley, Will Wade, it took him an hour to get to his post-game Zoom press conference. That didn't go well in Nashville that day.
Yeah.
And people on the Zoom joking, better hurry up. Kent's got to read at church on Sunday. He's not going to make it, if we don't get out of Nashville. But Kent reads at St. Jude Church on Sundays. Did the second reading last week.
Okay, Kent. Keep it up, baby. Keep it up.
So you're doing well right now, but if ever you need some Christ in your life, go and see Kent on Sunday.
On Sunday? Well, I go to Healing Place. I'm sorry.
I got you. Yeah. They got electric guitars and drums.
Yeah. It's a little different.
A little more high energy.
Yes.
So, Stanley Roberts.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
We'll do this again, man.
Definitely.
That's like a 5-parter with this guy. Great stuff.